Donald Trump is an enemy of himself and all of us. And he must know the EFF is not scared of him.
Donald Trump came with billions of promises of roads, energy, jobs. But in an unprecedented twist, 13 African nations stood up and said, "No, this isn't just a political story. It's a power shift, a statement to the world, and a warning to the United States." Tonight, we uncover why Africa rejected Trump's billions, and what this bold move means for the future of global power. It was supposed to be a moment of triumph, a grand tour across the African continent. U.S. President Donald Trump, flanked by an entourage of advisors, business tycoons, and media cameras, was ready to announce what he called the largest American investment in Africa in history. Billions of dollars in infrastructure, technology, and trade. A deal that, on paper, could change lives. But behind the smiles and handshakes, something wasn't right. The leaders of 13 African nations saw the fine print, and when they did, they closed the door. Sources close to the negotiations say the deal was valued at over $50 billion. Trump's proposal included massive road construction projects, modern ports, state-of-the-art hospitals, and energy plants. It also promised preferential trade access to U.S. markets, training programs for African workers, and technology transfers in agriculture and manufacturing. To the world, it looked like a win-win. To the African people, it sounded like hope. But the leaders knew. Hope can be the bait before the trap snaps shut. Buried deep in the hundreds of pages of the agreement were clauses that could alter Africa's destiny for decades. The deal demanded exclusive mining rights for U.S. corporations in strategic minerals, cobalt, lithium, and gold. Long-term oil concessions, with revenue sharing heavily tilted toward American companies. A ban on certain partnerships with China and Russia. U.S. oversight on security cooperation, which some leaders feared meant foreign military bases on African soil. In short, the billions came with a bill. One Africa wasn't willing to pay. And that's when the resistance began. The first to reject the deal was Ghana. President Mahama reportedly told his advisors, "We will not sell our future for short-term cash." Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, followed quickly. South Africa joined, then Kenya, Tanzania, Senegal, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Algeria, Namibia, Ethiopia, DR Congo, and Angola. 13 countries. One voice. Africa is not for sale. This kind of collective rejection is almost unheard of in modern politics. For decades, Western nations, and yes, China too, have used investment packages to gain influence across Africa. The offers were often too tempting to refuse. But this time, African leaders made a statement. No amount of money is worth giving up sovereignty. This was more than a political decision. It was an act of unity. Trump, known for his bold personality, didn't take the rejection lightly. In a press briefing in Florida, he called the decision a missed opportunity for Africa and hinted that the refusal was influenced by foreign rivals. But in private, insiders say he was furious. This wasn't just about business, it was about image. And for a man who prides himself on being a master dealmaker, this was a very public defeat. While Washington was reeling, Beijing and Moscow were smiling. China has been Africa's biggest trading partner for over a decade. Russia has been expanding its military and energy influence on the continent. By rejecting Trump's billions, Africa signaled it won't be pressured into choosing sides. Instead, it's opening the door to a new era of multipolar partnerships, where Africa sets the terms. Across social media, hashtags like #AfricaIsNotForSale and #PrideInAfrica trended for days. Young Africans called the rejection the birth of a new Africa. Commentators compared it to the independence movements of the 20th century. This was about dignity, about self-respect, about breaking free from the old playbook of power. Of course, saying no is just the first step. The challenge now is building the kind of economic growth that makes foreign dependency unnecessary. African leaders are exploring stronger continental trade through the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. There's talk of joint infrastructure funds, regional defense agreements, and even a Pan-African tech innovation hub. The rejection of Trump's billions wasn't just a refusal. It was a declaration of independence in the 21st century. Donald Trump's billions couldn't buy Africa's future. The message is loud and clear. If you want to do business with Africa, it will be on Africa's terms. And for the first time in a long time, the world is listening. If you believe Africa should stand on its own terms, share this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered global stories. And hit that bell so you never miss a truth the mainstream won't tell you.
Welcome to African Spotlight 24, your premier source for news and current affairs from across the continent. We're glad you're here. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe, like, and turn on notification to stay up to date with the latest news and analysis. Your support helps us reach more people. Disclaimer: the content of this video is based on credible, publicly available information and is intended for educational, analytical, and informational purposes only. African Spotlight 24 does not promote hate, violence, misinformation, or political unrest. Our goal is to deliver thoughtful insights, highlight local voices, and encourage informed conversations throughout Africa.
Donald Trump arrived with a deal worth billions, the kind of offer most nations would jump at. But 13 African countries looked him in the eye and said, no. What could make leaders walk away from money that could build roads, schools, and hospitals? The truth behind this rejection is bigger than politics. It's about power, pride, and the future of an entire continent. Trump's plan was bold. A $50 billion investment package for African infrastructure, energy, and trade. The headlines promised hope, new highways, upgraded ports, cutting-edge hospitals, jobs for millions. At first glance, it looked like a golden ticket. But in politics, there's no such thing as free money. Deep inside the fine print were clauses that set off alarm bells. Exclusive U.S. rights to mine Africa's most valuable resources: cobalt, lithium, and rare earths. Oil concessions favoring American corporations for decades. Restrictions on trade with China and Russia. Permission for new U.S. security facilities, which critics called a polite word for military bases. In short, the billions came with strings strong enough to pull a continent. The first crack appeared in Ghana. President Nana Akufo-Addo, respected for his outspoken stance on sovereignty, reviewed the proposal and reportedly said, "We cannot sell our children's future for short-term gain." Within days, Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, followed suit. Then came South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, until 13 nations stood together. This kind of unity is rare in modern geopolitics. For decades, outside powers, whether the US, Europe, or China, have competed to gain influence in Africa through investments. Usually, the offers were too tempting to refuse. But this time, African leaders drew a line in the sand. They sent a message. Africa is not a prize to be bought. Publicly, Trump called it a missed opportunity. He hinted that foreign rivals, a thinly veiled reference to China and Russia, had poisoned the deal. Behind closed doors, sources say he was livid. This was more than business. For a man who built his image as a master dealmaker, Africa's rejection was a public blow to his brand. Washington wasn't the only capital watching. In Beijing, officials reportedly smiled. China has been Africa's largest trading partner for over a decade, funding roads, railways, and energy projects. Without demanding political alignment, Moscow, too, has been expanding military and energy ties. By rejecting Trump's billions, Africa made it clear it will not be forced to choose sides in the new Cold War. Across social media, hashtags like #AfricaIsNotForSale trended for days. Young Africans called the rejection a second independence. It wasn't just about turning down money, it was about reclaiming dignity. In marketplaces, on radio talk shows, and in university debates, people asked, if the terms are unfair, why take the money at all? Saying no is only the first step. Now comes the hard part. building Africa's future without falling into dependency traps. Leaders are looking inward, strengthening the African Continental Free Trade Area, creating joint infrastructure funds, investing in local tech hubs and agriculture innovation. It's a vision of an Africa that doesn't need to be rescued, because it's building its own success. To the rest of the world, this might look like a lost deal. But for Africa, it's a turning point. Says, if you want to invest here, come as a partner, not a master. Says, we decide our own future. And maybe, just maybe, it says, the days of buying influence with a blank check are over. Trump's billions couldn't buy Africa's loyalty. The message is clear. This is a new era, and Africa is playing by its own rules. If you believe in Africa's right to choose its path, share this story. Because the more the world hears it, the more powerful that message becomes.